Hello, welcome everyone to the Marr Show. Thank you guys for joining me for another fantastic episode. A few days ago, I was actually out of town and I was doing some game hunting. I went to McKay's bookstore over in Chattanooga. If you have never heard of it, it's a great place. I don't know how widespread McKay's is, but it's a really great store and there's a lot of great stuff that they have in there. They have a variety of books and games and all that stuff, and I picked up a few games that I'm really happy to have in my collection. For one, I got a Mario Party 5. I heard this is a pretty good Mario Party game. I've also found it, granted I don't have the cover, it's just the disc alone, but I'd rather pay $30 for Paper Mario Thousand Year Door rather than the $70 or even higher that I see in some places. But then there was one game I found that I remember playing a lot as a kid, and I haven't really played it in very many years. Like, I think the last time I played it was like around 2010 or something like that. So I wanted to revisit this game and probably talk about it in the show, and that's Cars, the game that's based on the movie, based on a bunch of talking cars. When the first Cars film came out in theaters, I was very excited to watch it as a kid. I remember seeing it advertised a lot, the vast amount of toys that was marketed towards the movie, and when I saw it in theaters, I thought it was really good, and it's still a pretty solid Pixar film, I think. Granted, I haven't seen the second one, which I've heard from so many people, to avoid it at all costs. If I even watched the Cars 3 without even seeing or knowing a lot about Cars 2, and actually watched it pretty well. In fact, Cars 3 is another great Pixar film as well. But the first one I think is a classic, and even though I have yet to rank all the Pixar films in order from greatest to least, even though that would be a pretty hard, daunting task. In fact, Coco's number 1 in case anyone asks, but regardless, Cars were probably up in my top 5 as I still really enjoy the film. And of course, even though as a kid I was excited about Cars and loved the film, I didn't go crazy into buying all the die-cast car figures because there's a lot of them, like a lot of them. So I just stuck with only playing the game when it was brand new back in the day, and I remember enjoying it a lot. So when I saw it at McKay's, I wanted to revisit it to see how it holds up and bring it back some fun memories of playing it back then. And I have to say, even after many years of not playing it, it's still a pretty solid licensed game in my opinion. I wouldn't go as far as say it's one of the best licensed games out there, but I think it's a really fun one that not a whole lot of people really mention a whole lot, so let's just go ahead and talk about Cars, the game based on the movie, based on vroom vroom and going around in circles making left turns to infinity. Boogity 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 boys, just go racing! Actually, I've always wanted to say that. I'm not even a huge NASCAR person, but I've always wanted to say that phrase. There's one element about the game that it makes it really interesting, and I don't know how often a lot of the licensed games based on Pixar and Disney films do, but the game doesn't really follow the story of Cars. It actually takes place of the events after the movie, and if you've yet to see the movie, spoilers at this point here, so you can skip ahead a few seconds. The film takes place where the King retires, Chick Hicks wins the Piston Cup race, and Lightning's training to win the next year's Piston Cup. What's fun about this story is that you see the other residents of Radiator Springs helping Lightning to train and become the best and winning all the Piston Cup races. It's not heavily character specific, like it doesn't have the same deep emotions like the first Cars does, but you see how Lightning grew even though he still has some cheekiness in him, and you see all the other Cars characters like Mater, Doug Hudson, and Fillmore helping out Lightning to improve his skills. And it's really great to see these beloved characters again, and I really love how they decided to just do a follow-up to Cars. This is a double-edged sword in my opinion, guaranteed if you have yet to see the movie, you will probably be lost wondering, wait, when did this happen? Chick won the Piston. What? So if you haven't seen the movie and then jump into this game, you will be probably confused, but if you were a kid and just saw Cars out in the movies and you wanted some more actions and more fun with the Cars universe, the game will have you covered. We're having a brand new storyline that follows directly after the first movie. Visually, the game looks pretty good, I have to say. I'm playing a PlayStation 2 version, obviously, and while the 360 and PC versions are superior, they have better lightings, better details, but I think the PS2 version holds up pretty well, I think. But one thing that I love about all versions of the games is the open world of Radiator Springs. You get to explore all across through Radiator Springs and even to 2 other locations pretty close by to Radiator Springs and get to visit iconic locations from the film. That's one thing I really do like about licensed games. When they do it just right, it can immediately transport you to the world from the films and TV shows. It just makes you feel part that you are literally in Radiator Springs and so on. One element about the gameplay when you do road races, they take place around the different areas of Radiator Springs, so that way you could get more familiarized with the world and you don't get too lost. So if you like do a bunch of races in like the first area of Radiator Springs, you'll be able to know where you're at and not be lost or anything like that. That way when you do the races, you know, okay, I could just drift here, take a shortcut through here, and I think that makes it more involved with doing the road races and within the open world of Radiator Springs to familiarize yourself with the areas to help you learn shortcuts and different ways to win a road race when you do challenges. This has nothing to do with the visuals. I just want to showcase some of these funny little moments here as I was playing for the game, such as when I was playing as Luigi searching for tires and he was kind of stuck on this wall just defying the laws of gravity. And then there was this one part where I was playing as Sheriff and then he does this triple flip through the air and it's funny to me. I think it is. And then I do want to talk a little bit about the soundtrack to Cars. I mean, the generic music is fine and all, but there's also some pretty cool songs that they picked out to play throughout the game. Some songs such as Rock This Town, Best Looking Guy in Town, What I Want, and Night Drive, very great songs and definitely era of the 2000s, well one of them's not 2000s, but whatever. There's a pretty good selection of songs that you hear throughout the game. I'm kinda surprised they don't have Life is a Highway, whether it be Rascal Flatts or the original version. The songs they did have for the game are pretty good. But let's explore the meat and potatoes of the game, the gameplay. If you played games like Need for Speed Underground, you'll feel right at home with cars. As you're playing through races, you'll notice as you do certain actions such as doing a power slide or being in first place, you'll get bonus points. In fact, as you drive around through Radiator Springs, you'll notice these lightning icons here, which are bonus points again. When you get enough bonus points, you can actually use them to unlock extra characters to play in arcade mode, artwork and deleted scenes from the game, as well as some bonus clips from the movie itself. I do want to mention the controls a little bit. They're good, they're solid, though there's one element of the controls that took me a little bit of time to get used to, and I'm not sure if it worked it for me a whole lot or not, and that's when I'm power sliding or drifting as well. It's drifting. It responds pretty well, but whenever I'm going really fast and when I try to do a power slide, it feels like it's not even inputting or the game doesn't acknowledge I'm even pressing R1 to even drift or anything like that. So that does kind of mess me up a little bit as I'm wanting to drift and I'm in high speed, that I have to drift at a tight curve, that it doesn't allow me to do a power slide or doesn't even acknowledge that I am power sliding at all. So it sometimes works and sometimes doesn't. But even with sometimes the drifting not working, the controls are nice and floaty, and you can even make the cars jump by pulling back on the analog stick. And really, you don't really use jump a whole lot. I mean, there is one part of the game where you're in Sergeant's boot camp and you have to jump over fences and all that, but that's really the only time where I think it's necessary to jump. It can be helpful as well by jumping through cliffs and other shortcut areas as well, but you don't use it a whole lot. As you progress through the game, Lightning will unlock some boost abilities to help make Lightning go a little bit faster. And like I mentioned, there are a bunch of different challenges that you do in Radiator Springs. Road races are the most common challenges you'll do. Like I mentioned, you drive around a track layer within the hub world and you win. Again, this is great as since you're in Radiator Springs and the races do take place within the hub world, you'll get to familiarize with the track to know, okay, there's gonna be a drift here, so I gotta be careful, slow down here, so you can plan out quarterly since you familiarize yourself with the hub world to plan out how you're gonna go through the race and time your drifting and all that just right. And of course there are Piston Cup races as well. These usually happen at the end of the chapter in the story mode, and there's even a short little mini game halfway through each Piston Cup where you play as Greedo doing that famous scene of where you're airing up the tires, washing the windshields and etc. Unlike the road races, you are not allowed to use boost or power sliding at all, which makes sense. If you have boost in a NASCAR race, you will be cheating at that point. There are a few times where I wish I could be able to drift, as there'll be times where I'm hugging the wall and that messes me up a few times. And to break the mode, there are some mini games you could play as well, like tractor tipping as Mater, finding abandoned tires as Luigi, or chasing down speeders as Sheriff. These are pretty fun, and there's usually like 8 levels of those different mini games. They're really fun and definitely help break the mode a few times. Though I will admit, I did play through the game. It only took me like 8 hours to beat it all the way through. But during that time, as I was getting closer to finishing the game, it did get a bit monotonous to do the races over and over. Not saying I didn't enjoy the races, but it didn't really change a whole lot. I mean, there is one part as you progress through the story mode, as you play as some of these trickster cars that goes in to steal Lightning's equipment. Other than that, the gameplay doesn't really change a whole lot like the races. They're still fun, but I think it might get tedious after a while, especially if you're able to beat the game as quick as I did. In fact, for those that are looking for a challenge, well, there are some hard parts in the game. In fact, there's even a harder mode of the game if you name your profile to champion, spelled like this, not like the traditional champion. But aside from that, the game isn't really that difficult. As you beat the challenges, you'll be awarded with a certain amount of trophies, and for those completionists out there, there's a total of 250 trophies to obtain in the story mode. There's not like 250 challenges, no, though that would be pretty interesting, but again, that would get really tedious after a while. Pretty much as you beat a race, that'll equal up to getting 5 points. Or like say, if you win 3rd place, you get 2 trophies, or if you win 1st place, you get all 5 trophies of that road race. So it gets wrapped up pretty easily. Like I said, I was able to beat the game in about 8 hours, which I was kind of surprised. I remember it took me a while to play this game as a kid, but I think that's one of the magics of growing up, or as you play more games and more experience. The games that when you played as a kid were very hard, but then when you played it through them, you're like, wow, that was easy. I have to say, even though it's been a long while since I played this, I think it holds up pretty well. Now granted, like I mentioned, the drifting sometimes works and sometimes doesn't. I think it mostly have to do with the fact I was going too fast and I was coming upon a sharp curve that I wasn't able to do a power slide at the right timing. But I will admit, as I got further through the game and beating it, it did get a little bit tedious with some of the road races and even the piston cup races. Those can be pretty stale a little bit, at least for my liking, they were a bit stale. However, that's only a very minor nitpick, I think, as this is a pretty solid licensed game, I have to say. You get to explore a vast open world of Radiator Springs, which looks beautiful, and there are many iconic locations that you instantly recognize from the movie. There's also a lot of unlockable characters, art, and paint jobs for all the characters that you can get. The road races are pretty exhilarating, and I will admit again, I do like how they decide to continue on with the story from the first movie and make it a little continuation. It's not heavy depth and emotions like the first one, but I think it's really solid for those who first seen the Cars film when it first came out and wanted the more adventures of Lightning McQueen and Mater. They can have that with the game adaptation. Although one thing I forgot to mention, if you're looking for a challenge, I don't know if this is the game for you. Granted, there is a harder mode if you do type in champion as your default profile or something like that. I probably will have to do that next time when I do it. So that might be a little bit harder, but I don't think it'll be super difficult like some experienced drivers will want. But if you just want a fun, amazing licensed game based on the Cars universe, you're looking at it right here. And that's all the time we have for today, folks. So if you want to leave your thoughts on the Cars video game, just comment below and you can easily pick up the game. I only paid like $3 for it over at McKay's, but still I do recommend at least picking it up. It's a fun little licensed game, I have to say, especially if you really enjoy the first Cars film. You'll definitely get a kick out of it. So thank you guys for watching this episode of God Bless Yins, and I will see you all on the next episode of the Marr Show. Bye-bye! Ka-chow! Bye-bye!